And welcome back to Visceral Reactions, your regular stop for irregular amounts of horror. I'm Matthew Germanis.
I'm Quinton Williams.
Thank you for joining us to find out more about It Follows. This is one of the more recent things that we've done here on the show, and one of the more different things that we've covered. So this is a film that has, in a way, kind of been pigeonholed as being a parable for sexually transmitted infections. And while it's absolutely possible and rewarding to look at it as such, it's also a lot more than that. And that's what I think, I guess just to go through how multidimensional this movie is and why it's developed
This, huge following.
Yeah.
As one of the best horror films to come out in the last decade.
Yeah, exactly. And, the premise is really extremely simple. You have sex with someone who has it, and then it follows you until it either kills you in ways that we don't know for certain.
It's very vague.
Yeah, like we just see the bodies and not the actual process.
Well, we do kind of see the process, but we don't know what really happens.
Yeah. Or you give it to someone else. Like it's kind of a biological version of The Ring.
Yes, very much so.
Like you have to pass it on in order to keep going. But the thing that makes it even trickier is that no one really knows for certain if that works. It seems like it just kind of buys you time.
Right.
And I mean, from the very beginning, the film kind of opens up with this burst, you're just thrown into the middle of it. You have no idea what's going on, and you just see this girl, Annie, just running out of her house, and her neighbors are looking at her weird, and then she runs back into her house. Her dad doesn't know what's going on. She runs out of the house.
We never see what she's running from.
No.
All in one take.
Yeah.
One shot.
And she just gets in her car and keeps driving and goes to a beach, calls her dad, still have no idea what's happening. Next thing you know, it just cuts to her on the beach, contorted in a way that very much reminds me of The Ring.
Yeah.
Like complete disfigurement. Her leg, one of her legs is bent back in a way that I have never seen that before.
It's like the opening of Midsummer, but better.
Yeah. Because it's quicker.
Yeah.
Like it gets to the point.
Yeah.
And that's really one of the more impressive things about this is that for a movie that's not relatively dense, I'll say, like it's not, this is not the most complex thing. This is not The Shining. That how many theories,
right,
could we postulate of like what's going on, and not that much happens.
No.
Like what? Like 2 people die?
Yes. There's probably more off-screen deaths, but like the whole movie's this.
Well, there's no on-screen death.
Yeah, it's the other teenage boy whose name I forget.
Who, Paul?
Yeah. With the longish hair.
Oh no, that was Greg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, still like one. Then
right.
One on screen, and everything else is off screen.
Yeah.
Like it's not like this is one example of having an invisible killer
Mm-hmm.
actually working and being very effective. And one of the more obvious components to the film that I think definitely play into why this is so creepy is that you are always aware of who is looking at what.
Right.
Not just like past Annie, like once it gets to Jay and her sister and her friend Paul and her friend Yara, like she's in the pool looking up. Then it cuts to boys in the next yard looking at her.
Yeah.
And then she's looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
And then she comes in and then she's looking at her friends. Her friends are looking at TV. Her friends are looking at her. Like it's very, it's
everyone's always watching someone.
Yes. And you realize that is something that is so mundane and so innocent until it's being done by someone that you don't know.
Right.
And that's where the creepiness of it comes in.
And they foreshadow that, like when they're doing that game at the movie theater.
Yeah.
Which I think the game's fun in practice, but it's kind of stupid that you only get like 2 guesses. I'm like, there could be 100 people around you.
Yeah. But you're always
watching someone and you're always being watched, even if you don't know it.
Exactly. And what makes it even, where things start to get complicated is when you are seeing something that others are not seeing.
Right.
So on the date with Hugh, Jay doesn't see this woman that he's talking about. Like she is left to believe that maybe it's like an ex of his, right, and he just got really freaked out and didn't want them interacting. But then he tells her, like he eventually tells her what's going on.
The worst.
Yeah.
The worst way you could possibly ever tell someone.
Yeah. And I think that's because how do you tell that to someone and have them believe you?
Apparently you chloroform them and tie them to a wheelchair.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like, this is one of the more like calmer and more like beautiful moments in the film is where right after the two of them have sex in the back of his car, she just leans out of the back seat and she's just like playing with a flower.
Yeah.
And again, it's a moment of we see her and
we don't see what he's doing.
Yeah. But we see her looking at the flower.
We hear him rummaging around in his trunk.
Yeah.
Doing stuff. We don't know yet until we realize, because he gets in the back seat. We think, oh, he's going to do a little cuddle.
No.
Oh, what's that? Oh, a rag. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So chloroform and ties her to a wheelchair. He explains to her like, hey, I slept with this person and ever since then, this thing has been following me and I need you to see it. And once this woman, the embodiment of it.
The entity.
Yeah.
The entity.
And yeah.
Which is
shape. It's a shape.
Yeah.
Like once this woman who's like covered in like blood and naked and like they're in an abandoned like parking lot.
It's
like building something like in ruins.
Yeah.
Somewhere that a person should not be.
No.
If in general. And so Jay sees that like this is a thing. Like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
And it just continues to unravel. Like, there's no real like understanding ever of what to do, like how to
Stop it.
Yeah, like there's none of that. And because the shape keeps coming back in different forms.
Yeah.
And it's not like, you're haunted by the person that gave it to you.
No.
It's just like, like an old man or like a kid or like, just like all of these different like random people, which I don't know if they are like figments. I mean, you can't just like conjure up a person in your mind. So I'm wondering if it's like connected to a memory or if it's someone like actually in town that's just
Right.
been repurposed for him.
Or it's a past victim.
Could be.
That's what I was thinking.
Could be.
Which makes some of the different type of entities that it takes on.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. See, I don't know, because the kid and the old person, I think would kind of like, there's an old guy and then there's an old woman.
Yeah.
Like, I think between those three, like, if we're going with the STI route, that like I'd find it hard pressed to think that they were past victims. Some of the others, absolutely.
Well, there's a thing about like in some areas in like a lot of retirement homes, there's a large outbreak of STDs because old people like having sex.
Yeah, but then the kid.
I know, that's why I'm like, It makes it
Yeah.
Something not to think about.
But Jay has to now deal with this, and once she sees the person following her, then she tries to tell her friends, and it like the moment that she does that is very much the uncomfortable moment of having to tell anyone like anything relating to the body, like whether you have something, whether you're sick, like whatever, like it's never comfortable. And that it happens relatively smoothly. Like, she's not really met with instant pushback of like,
she's not met with pushback, but I don't think they're on board 100% after that first night, because they're more worried about her because they just saw the guy he was having a date with push her out of the car, for some reason still bound and in her underwear.
Yeah.
And just leaves. Like, really?
Yeah. I don't know.
I think for that first night, they're just there because she's rightly so fucking traumatized.
Yeah. But then it becomes a group problem.
Yeah.
And as the problem spreads, just as as an infection would spread, we start seeing these very, very complicated, or I should say very nuanced relationships between this group of friends. Again, like going back to the looking, like at one point while they're driving, the friends are driving back to Jay and her sister's house, and they pass by Greg, who's just washing his car, or station wagon, and Kelly like looks at him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Kelly is like honed in on Greg, and the objects of desire in this are very, very clearly defined. And even with this, disease, this whatever it is, it never stops anyone from looking at someone,
right,
and wanting them. And so, whether it's Kelly looking at Greg, or like Greg looks at Yara, I mean, we learn later that like Greg and Jay like hooked up a while back.
Yeah.
And
This is like, it's a group of closely knit friends who've probably at some point in the past have all kind of just been together.
I don't know about that. Because Paul has definitely not slept with Jay.
They had a kiss though.
Yeah, that was it.
I mean, maybe not slept together, but some form of.
Yeah, but I mean that's a big difference,
Right,
though. Like,
okay.
I mean, you can go around kissing everyone you want. Like, but the fact that like Paul and Jay have not slept together is a major component of the tension throughout the film. Like, even when Paul knows, like even when everyone in the group knows that if you have sex with Jay, you're going to be chased by this thing until you die.
Right.
Paul doesn't care. Like, he has wanted her so badly
For years.
Yeah, that like he doesn't care. Like, he just wants to, like, he wants her so much that he thinks of it as relieving her of the burden.
Right.
Even though the thing clearly still is following Hugh and not, as opposed to just Jay. So it's very telling when Jay starts sleeping with Greg again.
Yeah.
And not Paul. And, like every time we see Paul looking at the two of them,
looks miserable.
Yeah, like he the fury that's inside of him is really something. But like all of these relationships, I think, are, I mean, very genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think for however old they are, like they're all high school.
I think early college.
Hugh is.
Right.
And maybe Greg. The rest of them,
it's either, last year of high school or first year of college.
Because those classrooms that they're in, like when Jay's in school, like it's a
pretty big classroom for high school.
I mean, typical you were just there. Like, high school classes, like on average, have like 30 something kids now.
I know, but it was never like that big.
What?
The high school class, at least for me.
Well, yeah. Well, Southeast Louisiana versus like
Detroit.
Detroit and not Detroit. Like it's not. I think that's a big distinction to make. That like even though it's filmed there, it's not Detroit. Like, this place doesn't exist. Like, there are no street names. There's no.
Well, let's talk about that, because like this film is in its own universe, and it's in its own universe where these teenagers all have rabbit ear TVs, and they just watch films in the 1950s, and they played Old Maid when they're bored.
Yeah, it's everything in the movie is an anachronism.
Yeah,
which means that it's kind of not even kind of like it is timeless. Like, there is nothing. You can say that it's grounded in one specific time over another, but then like the next scene, you'll see something and it just completely blows that away.
Yep.
Like,
even like their weird clamshell smartphone device.
Oh, that was like a Kindle.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah, she was just reading. She was reading Dostoevsky on that.
That's a weird ass Kindle.
Yeah. Or like a e-reader.
Right.
Yeah.
But even that's like its own unique thing that doesn't exist.
Exactly. Like some people have cell phones, but then they're also on the wall landlines.
Yep.
The cars are all over the place.
Yep.
Like Greg's station wagon is from the 70s. The car that Annie drives in the beginning is like contemporary. There and everything in between. Like the fashion is all over the place. At one point, like when they go to the beach, um, either Jay or Kelly's bathing suit is like from like the 60s.
Right.
And at another point, Jay's dressed very much like late 70s.
Right.
You know, it's like everything's very all over the place. And I think that it has like a dual effect. Like on one hand, you don't think about where this is happening.
Right.
But when you do, it's fascinating.
In my mind, I just think, because I knew it was shot in Detroit, I'm like, they're just in Detroit. Because Detroit has such like, you know, there's so much of Detroit that's just abandoned and run down and disheveled.
But I mean, it could be anywhere. Like they go to a beach.
No, you know what? It is specific. No, they act, honestly, they reference 8 Mile. They are in Detroit.
I mean, that's not a...
They said that one of the girls said, my parents told me never to go past 8 Mile. What other famous 8 Mile is there than Detroit?
I mean, I'm sure it's not the only one.
I'm pretty sure like in this home little universe, they are just in, I don't think.
We never see license plates. We never see street names. Like there are no names on any of the buildings. Like this is a place that doesn't, we don't even see a city. Like it's in its own spot. Like it like you said, like it's its own universe.
It's its own like alternate dimension, but like it's the fact that like they specifically so like run down Detroit areas, and they reference like,
I mean, the cities like that all over the country.
I know,
like
but there's
that.
no other like city that has such an emphasis on 8 Mile than Detroit.
I think that's one thing to bank it on. I don't know if you're a lawyer, I'm not exactly buying that argument. But yeah, I mean the distinction that the warning that they talk about, the focus is more on leaving the suburb.
Yeah,
like in Detroit, like you're not like where Eminem is talking about.
They're in the outskirts of Detroit, which is not specifically, you know, Detroit City itself.
Yeah, but where they are, like where they're walking to, it's not the same kind of boundary that the actual 8 Mile. Like there's no like railroad track that Eminem's talking about. Like it's like some Stephen King shit. Like there's seriously, it's like there's like a dome.
Yeah.
It might as well be a dome where everything exists in this suburban dream, and everything on the outside doesn't really matter
or exist.
Yeah.
It's like the Langoliers.
Yeah, or like any
where it's just the airport.
Yeah. You know, like I guess Stephen King does that a lot.
Yep.
Where like you know, like some shit like the Giver, like
right.
You know, you're in a dome and you're contained,
or just under
the dome. Yeah, exactly. I
don't know. I still think they're just in good old Detroit.
I mean, that's fine. I
think for me it enhances it greatly, because Detroit doesn't really get much love.
Well, I guess my arguing against that is that it's too specific of a thing for a film that does a lot to not be stuck in one time or place. Like if this were like, let's say all 80s.
Right.
And, you know, and picking up on that and like, okay, this is like a weird 80s Detroit. But like this is, I mean, come on, the TVs, the movie theater that they go to in the beginning.
Yeah, some guys just doing like 1910s pantomime piano. They're about to watch
they watch Charade that came out in 1963. Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn. Like you have a packed movie house, an old movie house that looks brand new.
Right.
And they're going to see Charade. And you have these two teenagers who are, dressed in like contemporary style. Like none of it makes sense.
And that's why it's just like,
that's why I think like saying like it's in Detroit makes it too real. That's my thing.
But like, I'm with all the alternative stuff. I'm fine with it just being in Detroit because it's just like a more quirky Detroit.
I don't think Detroit's quirky though. Like I mean, Detroit's a shit show. Like
there's something about it, like specifically just being
like it's literally a city that's like crumbling to the ground and being gentrified. Like,
but it's the fact that it's all this quirkiness, and it's just for some reason in Detroit, I think it's kind of wholesome in a weird way. It's humbling. Just like, because besides RoboCop, what and 8 Mile, the film, them film, what other
that should say something. Do you know what they say in Cleveland, Ohio?
What?
At least we're not Detroit.
I was thinking about that video.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you have a city that is, in its own. Like I've been to Cleveland. It's lovely. For that to be like a slogan that says a lot. Like when a city has to be proud that it's not another city, but specifically Detroit, it like that says something. And I think the way that the film distances itself from any specific geography, like even like within the suburb, like we don't know how far their houses are from the school,
right?
We don't know. I mean, really, aside from like their houses in relation to each other, like we know that like Jay and Kelly live like almost across the street from Greg, but like we don't know where Paul lives.
He's probably like right in that strip.
Maybe. We have no clue.
Right.
It's very likely that like they're all in this neighborhood, but we have no idea where that movie theater is. The distance that Hugh drives to go to that abandoned place, and then to, from the movie to the abandoned place to then back to Jay's house, like we have no idea how long that trip is.
I'm assuming it's like all relatively close to one another, since the entity can get there surprisingly quick by just a sauntering walk pace. Because I don't think it teleports. I think it walks. Because if it teleported, that's it. You're done.
See, I don't know. That's like I can't say no,
right?
But I can't also.
I also can't say yes or no, because there's that one weird scene where it's just on the roof for no reason.
Yeah, like we don't see enough of it working in order to really make like a solid judgment call on that. Because like when the guy appears on the roof, like how did he get there? Why is he on there?
Yeah.
Like
because with every other time, the thing's been on the ground.
Yeah, when Jay's in class, the old woman is across the street.
Yeah,
like we don't see how does she get there?
She just walks.
But I wonder if because of the different forms that it takes, if maybe it just transfers, and that's how it gets to places quicker.
I honestly think it's more terrifying if it just walks and
moment. If that's the case,
you're not on your guard.
You could just take a fucking plane.
I know that's okay. So I want to get to that because there's for me quite a bit of the film that doesn't work for me.
Okay,
because I like the film. I don't think it's the masterpiece that everyone says it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's mainly because of the entity itself.
Okay.
Because like the whole concept of it's fascinating. It's great. On paper, it sounds like the stupidest thing in the world. Like what? It's a haunted sex TD thing.
Yeah.
That gets you. But like with its presentation, it's great and fascinating. But there's some things about it I don't think they utilize the idea enough to make it like really fascinating and interesting.
Okay.
The main thing is that the guy I'm glad you remember all the characters' names. I don't.
Which one?
Hugh, the boyfriend guy.
Yeah.
His whole deal doesn't make sense either, but I'll get to that. He talks about how like, the thing could be like anyone,
Mm-hmm.
could be friend, your family, or a stranger, which, that within itself is terrifying. But the entity always chooses these weird, disturbing characters all the time, like 90% of the time. Like sometimes it's just like a guy in like a tank top and shorts, like he was when he broke into the other what's his name? Greg's house, or when he's at the pool at the end. But most of the time it's either like weird, scared grandma, weird kid, weird tall guy with no eyes,
Yeah.
weird trailer trash that maybe mean woman with no teeth and is just peeing on herself.
Yeah.
These weird, like, disturbing, slightly perverse. And I know there's a reason for that probably, but it's the fact that he's talking about like it could be anyone. And it's like, so, you have to be careful. I'm like, from what I've seen, it's fairly easy to point out who the entity is because it looks like some random weirdo.
Yeah. Now, okay, so I think that the reason for that is that is getting at the stigma
Yes.
around STIs.
Yeah.
I mean, even just the fact that still to this day, there are people who refuse to call them STIs and still hold on to STD and do not have a fucking clue of like the difference it does to someone's mentality to say you have a sexually transmitted disease versus a sexually transmitted infection.
Because infection can be
treated. A disease can be treated as well, but I mean, like an infection could be like, oh, I have a cold, or like I have like I need antibiotics, I need a Z-Pack or something, and the irony is that so many STIs can be cured with a shit ton of antibiotics,
right.
So it's like you wouldn't look down on someone who developed cancer or like any sort of like life-changing medical issue. But because of the stigma around sex and what that says about a person's character and morality, something as everything from AIDS on down to, I don't know, like herpes, chlamydia, all of that stuff. Like all of that is on this like higher shelf of judgment that anyone who has these, it's like that you have the scarlet letter now.
Yeah.
And so I think the way that people are typically treated after it's known, that you have these things, you might as well look like the people that are in the movie that are, going blind, they can't control their bowels, or, anything like that. Like they're disfigured in certain ways. Like all of that's figurative and literal at the same time.
Right.
And so I think that's what the intention is for that. But I do agree that like you see that and it's coming. And I guess the irony at that point is, 9 times out of 10, you sleep with someone, you don't know that they have whatever, unless someone's like, unless someone knows and like, hey, I have this. Are you okay with that? You're not going to really find that situation where you can prepare yourself any more than like safe sex practices.
Right.
So, but yes, continue please with the things that are a little wonky.
And for like a movie being only an hour and 40, the movie does like weird beat to it
Mhm.
where it's like calm, panic, calm, panic, calm, panic. But like through what the characters experience, doesn't make sense to me because every time she's run off, because it shows up, she's running, she's frantic, she goes somewhere, the group goes somewhere to hold up, and they just stay there like thinking they're safe, and then like, oh, it shows up, run, 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 like somewhere else, and it's this inconsistency of like, you know, it's coming after you. Why are you like, what's with these? Why are you just sitting around
Mhm.
doing nothing? Especially at like the part where they're at the lake or the beach.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, what? Do we have time for swimming? Do we have time for like sunbathing? It's coming, whether you know it is or not. It's coming, and it happens so many times where it gets kind of aggravatingly funny.
Okay.
Because like the solution is run, and running away is very successful when it comes to this thing.
The best solution is to drive.
Yeah,
And that's something.
and that's the other thing. Why don't they just ever run it over?
I don't know.
I feel like hitting it with a car is a lot more effective than a bullet because the bullets are not nearly as effective as we've learned.
Yeah, no, it keeps getting back up.
Yeah. So just like, what if you just kept hitting him with a car like 50,000 times? But it's just the fact that like they run away from it quite successfully, except for the part where she gets in the car accident. She's in the hospital for like God knows how long, and it doesn't manage to get her. That's kind of weird. Not unless the hospital has like great security and just can't get in. But always manages to find a way in, and it's this things like that. And I'm thinking, if it's the only thing it has going for it is it just walks,
Mm-hmm.
go to a different country. Like if the ocean won't stop it, then a shark will. I mean, not unless it it can swim, and if it can swim, like it's gonna be a while.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, try to get an online nursing degree, become a traveling nurse. You never have to worry about that. But I think like, because they're always just like in the vicinity where of course it's always going to get you.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think the characters are being pretty smart. And it's very obvious where like their plan for the end just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just completely fails.
They are teenagers.
They are.
And
They're just
unfortunately, in this country, the idea of sex education is
it doesn't exist.
Is abstinence.
Yeah.
So for teenagers to know what to do in the event of contracting something,
Right.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Because no one has access to the internet in this. So like there's no real accessing information to help. So like it's a very limited
Right.
very limited perception, I think, or worldview of the type of solutions to an unprecedented problem. And I think the reaction of, okay, we've gone away, everything should be fine, right? Like,
but after like the second or third time,
I mean, sometimes like that's just how, sometimes that's how people learn,
I guess.
Like, how many people get, someone pregnant like a couple of times before they realize, oh, I should probably get a vasectomy, or like I should probably wear a condom, like, things like that. Or like, how many times somebody, contracts something and they're like, oh, I should probably wear a condom, or like any,
Yeah. Does the curse not work
thing.
if they're wearing a condom or they're on birth control?
I don't think the birth control would mean anything, but the condom, I think, is the crux of it. like that's its greatest enemy is any form of protected sex.
Fuck. Damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, but the odd thing is that driving away is the most effective.
Yeah, just drive. It walks. It can't.
Yeah, it can't drive. It doesn't have a license.
If you just leave Detroit, not Detroit, and like go to like Montana. No, that's too close to it. Just
Montana's a little bit.
Go to Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Take forever if you're just walking.
Yeah.
It'll take them like a year to get there. They're not even going at Forrest Gump across the USA 15,000 times pace. They're walking.
Yeah. The plan that they do come up with,
in theory, would
it work?
It depends on like if all of the jokes that I've heard about like I'm gonna have a bath with my toaster just doesn't work, and you can't get electrocuted by that because they throw a lot of stuff in that pool.
I mean, if you throw a plugged-in toaster into your bathtub, it's gonna.
But they throw in like that thing.
It's a big fucking pool.
It is a big pool,
and that's okay. So that's another moment where like we have no idea what time it is.
I think it's night.
No, I mean like.
Oh yeah, because there's lamps, electric typewriter.
There are typewriters, telephones, like there are all these things. Yeah. I don't know what would happen if you were electrocuted.
I've been shocked, but never like full on.
So, yeah, I mean, you can look at that way of thinking as what the solution for any type of mental illness was for how many decades, to just give someone electroshock therapy.
Right.
Of, here's another area of medicine that is severely misunderstood by the general public and severely stigmatized, and the solution is by far the worst thing that can happen. So I don't know, that might be a stretch or not, but I find it really fascinating that the thing can be shot to begin with.
Yeah.
That like it
can be hurt. It can bleed. And it's this thing that's invisible but physical at the same time.
Yeah.
And it made me think of like that moment when it's the old lady and it's walking through like those two people talking. Do they not feel someone like walk by them?
I guess not.
I guess not.
Yeah. And maybe this is a cop-out of sorts. Maybe it's too simple of an answer to all of these very valid questions that you're asking. But when it comes to diseases, we don't always know
the answer. Yeah.
They just because it does something to one person doesn't mean to another. We think we understand it, and then all of a sudden it like changes, or we find out that like actually we didn't, which adds to the fact that it can't be stopped.
Right.
You can try running, driving, whatever, away from these issues of the body or, and your own mortality, but eventually it catches up to you.
Yeah.
Like you can't run away from it forever. And maybe that's too simple, but at the same time, I mean, how can you think of life in any other way? Like, how is it not just that? Like, whether you're running or not, like you're still, like, as you're living, you're distancing yourself from these things, but eventually they get you.
Right.
And so maybe, I don't know, maybe the idea for David Robert Mitchell is to just like take that and make it a physical entity that is also a non-physical entity that is also STIs, but then is also something else.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's all vague enough to where you aren't like bogged down by it.
Yeah.
And there's no like exposition dump. It's like, oh, this has been around since ancient times. It could have been around since the dawn of man. And but there's been just so many people that's been, fucking for the last tens of thousands of years that it like, they've just been wandering looking for. Because like what happens, the hypothetical, it gets all the people that's attached to it within.
Yeah.
Does it just die? Where'd it come from? Where's it going?
So I don't know if you saw, but I did write something about the movie, and I put it up on Facebook.
Okay.
And it's about this very thing, like it just like a very like, because there's one house number like in the entire movie, practically, or at least there's only one house number that I could see, and it's Annie's house in the beginning. So like literally the beginning of the film.
Right.
Her house number is 1492. The year that Columbus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that happened, like one of the most severe things that happened when Columbus and his men and Europeans after that came over to the Caribbean, to the Americas, in addition to bringing like diseases and stuff, they brought venereal diseases that these native peoples had no immunity towards, and it helped to wipe them out. And so I think, I don't know, 1492 is not a number that you just put on something. So I read that as that's the beginning in terms of America. We have the origin of these diseases, and it just keeps going. And so like all of the moments.
What if the entities of Native American curse that they placed on the white people who came?
I mean,
no, but if that's the case, then like there wasn't a lot of like settlers in the beginning, and they were like, yes, sir, in the middle of the wilderness, but they weren't that far apart where like, and there weren't that many people having like sex yet. It was just, sure, there's a lot of families and couples, but just people on their own. So like, I feel like it would have wiped them out pretty quick.
I mean, it kept going. I mean, you have wave after wave of like European ship and like fleets,
or maybe like
over.
It was doing its business in Europe and then it came over.
I mean, that's also possible
because we don't really know like if it is like Native American curse. Then like,
who knows? I mean,
where it manifests from.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also the point is that like we can't know where it comes from, and I think that's also why the kind of like cultural references that we see in the movie are from certain periods in American history where like sexuality and sex are very much in the forefront of the American conversation, especially with the 80s, with the epidemic of HIV and AIDS. We have a lot of references to the 70s, during the sexual revolution. We have moments where we see things from the 50s where, like developments in birth control were taking place. Like,
and the boom was just took place.
Yeah. So it's very much, I think, more than just like, again, pigeonholing it to a film about, or like a parable about STIs. I think it's really just like a parable about the history of sex in the Western Hemisphere. Or at least just America.
Yeah, where it's just been weirdly tight and strict and stagnant, and it's just still this weird taboo thing.
Yeah.
That just doesn't want to be talked about.
But at the same time, it's everywhere. Right. So it's like it's the constant tension of
and hypocrisy,
expression and suppression. And I think that's really what the film's getting at. At least that's my reading.
Right.
I'm really glad that I waited to watch this because
For this, it's always been like something I've known about
Yeah.
for years.
I want to say I had friends in grad school who saw this and really liked it.
Right.
And I'm glad that I didn't watch it then, because I think I would have just been like, oh, okay, it's sex. Gotcha. And like not really like thought about it more, or just like hearing people think that it's so great and then having all of that expectation, which is unfair to the movie. So I'm glad that like almost a decade has passed and watched it comfortably and was just surprised at like.
It's like if an Ari Aster movie was good.
Yes, exactly. Which is, that's how I felt when like Annie's leg was.
Yep.
I was like, holy shit, this is like, I feel like this is the thing that like Ari Aster keeps like jerking off to and like trying to get like, and he can't do it, or he's like almost there.
Yeah,
but like,
there's all like the shock value.
Yeah.
Weird deformations.
Yeah.
It's just like an hour and a half shorter.
Yeah.
1 hour shorter.
Yeah.
But the one thing that, and it's not really a detriment to the film, I just feel like it couldn't like utilize a lot more, is the aspect of the paranoia. Because they like mention it and they have characters talk about it, but they honestly don't utilize it as much as they could have. There's only like 2 specific moments where I've seen them. It's all visual, and they don't take any notice to it. It's when they're going to the Hughes High School to get information about him, to see who he really was, and there's for like a brief moment, and there's like a brief music sting of like this person with a backpack walking slowly, like it does. The camera pans as it do.
Oh, and then they're like, "Hey, do you see them?"
No, because they don't even. It's not even. It doesn't even get brought attention to it. It's just a regular camera pan throughout the high school, and it's in a window where people like sitting and doing their thing, but there's one lone figure, like just walking, and it has like a boom boom like music cue, and it doesn't take any attention to it. It doesn't focus on it. Doesn't zoom in. It just sweeps past. When they get the information, and they're going in the car, and the camera's looking through the windshield, and they're about to drive off, it's that same figure walking, and you're walking towards the car. And the film takes no notice of it, doesn't bring any attention to it. But in my mind, I'm like, what's going on there? And they do that the same thing at the very last shot of the film. When they're holding hands, there's that figure in the distance walking towards them. Blurry, out of focus, but it's there. I wish there was a lot more of that and not more of just like the entity just kind of slightly being in your face, like you kind of know it's there. I think the film would be a lot more tense and a lot more like, gripping on your seat. If there was more bits of that where the film doesn't bring attention to it, but just your brain brings attention to it, and you're thinking in the background where they're having a conversation or they're sitting, what the hell is that? What is that? And like they try to do it where they're like, do you see that? And it's just the regular person. And like, I know that it's not the thing because it moves in such a specific way. There's never like, it doesn't really have any like objects on it or with it. So I like, for me, it doesn't play up like the scare factor, but like those 2 moments, I just wish there was just so much more of that.
Gotcha.
I wish there was like more of like a populated area to play with it, because it's mainly just the group on their own. So like in that specific, you can very much tell when it's coming because it's just them out in the like, not in the middle of nowhere, but in a very not populated area. I wish there was just more of that, just to really build up that. No, it's always coming for you, even when you can't realize, when you don't realize. And even the guy said it could be in the crowd, and they bring all that to attention, but they don't really use it.
It's a very fair point. Really, the biggest crowd that I can think of is in the beginning at the movie theater. And at that point, we have not seen anything. We don't even know what he's talking about.
And it's weird that there's moments of it just standing and not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like we don't see the girl in yellow dress, but it's Mr. Naked Man on the roof, which I still don't know why it's on the roof. Just like staring. I think that's just for like the creepy value, but doesn't really.
No, I gotcha.
end up doing much in the end.
Yeah.
And did you find it weird that like they went to Hugh's like crack house where he's staying at, and they're like touching stuff, and I'm thinking like I would not be touching anything in this place.
No.
But like they find his house and they go to his house and his mom's there, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind, has he been away for a long time? Where is it? Like, has his mom been worried about him? Like, or is he like off of college, he's doing college things and he's just visiting? Because like, how long has he been in that house?
Yeah, it's not good.
Just like it's just a weird thing because like there's hardly any adults in this film. There's mention and references to like their parents with photos and stuff.
Jay and Carrie's mom is there at the table.
That's it.
It's alluded to that she is an alcoholic, so she's not present.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, when the thing takes form at the end in the pool, it's her dad.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's why it was weird to me. Like they're asking her like to tell him, and she wouldn't. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, it's like what's this horrible thing? It's just some guy. I'm like, why didn't you not say?
That's her dad.
I didn't know that.
At one point they show a picture.
Okay.
Of the three of them on like in her room or on the wall.
Yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of the film's so like vague and subtle. So there's probably like a lot of nuance in this film that I just missed.
It's possible.
Like that while like noticing what could be the entity just in the far background.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe watching it a second time.
I know. Because like there's a lot of like things that the film does where it'll just like hold on a shot. Like from one I can think of is, I think it was at the beginning where it just holds like on the car. And like in my mind, like, is there something I can't see in the distance? Like it was at night. I think it was like when they were on the beach or whatever, like lake area. It was like right in the beginning where before the two have sex and he chloroforms her. Just like focuses on like the car's on the side and it's at night and it's just like showing it. And I'm thinking like, what is it trying to show me? If I do it, can I not? Maybe it's there and I just can't see it, or it's something else. And it's like at the librarian or whoever's like with the yearbook and it just like zooms slowly to the like librarian. I'm like, what's that about? What's going on there? So it's maybe there's a lot of intentional or unintentional things and nuance that I'm just not picking up on. Probably need to like watch an analysis video of someone talking about it to like get more of like the bigger picture, because I'm sure it's there.
Yeah. Listen to a podcast about it.
Yes. It's interesting that this is the director's like second film.
His third movie is not only his best, but like one of my favorite movies of like the past 10 years.
And it's an A24 film.
I know.
But it's not a horror, so
yeah, exactly. So that's fine.
Yeah.
No, but Under the Silver Lake with Andrew Garfield is one of the best detective stories. I mean, of the past 20 years.
Better than Seven?
Well, Seven's older than that.
I know.
And also I said one of the best, not like the best.
Okay.
You know, no, just Andrew Garfield in that is just fantastic.
Sure. I should watch it because it's a noir film. And
it's incredible. It's like, it's Los Angeles, it's seedy. I mean, it's carrying on in this tradition of like The Big Sleep and The Big Lebowski, and then like Andrew Garfield. And it's, he's phenomenal.
And when did that come out?
2018.
2017, I think. 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
He hasn't done, that's
nothing since.
Yeah.
Yeah. Strongly recommend Under the Silver Lake. Yeah.
Because the director, even with It Follows, has like, he just really just knows how to use the camera and like make this like, I don't even want to call it a roller coaster, but this journey with you, just how he uses the camera. There's very simple movements and stuff. Very good editing to where like, I'm sure like the film with Andrew Garfield does that in spades and it's beautiful and it's great.
Awesome.
And I'm just thinking like, he's done these sure small films, but like A24 always gets traction and stuff. What's he like? He should be, I want to do more. He should be doing more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there were 4 years between It Follows and Silver Lake, so
And the guy's like, I think now like 47. So
yeah,
like,
he could be doing things. I mean, it's been 4 years since that, so
right.
maybe he's working on something now.
Maybe.
Hopefully, I mean, because that trajectory
Mm-hmm.
of those, that would be
He's the anti-Ari Aster, and
yes.
he's a filmmaker in this vein, like indie scene where I want to see more of him. Where
Mhm.
with Ari Aster, I don't.
Yeah,
I know we talk about Disappointment Boulevard a lot, but
won't come out until next year.
I know it's that's like I just because that I have to see it because it has Joaquin Phoenix in it, and
Exactly.
you have to watch anything with Joaquin Phoenix in it.
Yeah,
But for this director, I want to see more from it, and
Mhm.
I don't know what like he's not done any short films or anything of that nature. So I'm just wondering like, what's he been up to? What's he been doing? Is he okay financially? Is he okay? Is he dead? I want to see more of him.
Yeah, and that would be great. So, David Robert Mitchell, if you're listening,
Yes.
please make another movie. So I thought something would be kind of fun. What if we announce what we're doing next week with the random machine?
Oh, okay.
On, you know,
We should point out that I think by next week, or do we want to save next week for what will inevitably be probably our 1,000 download special?
we've already done that.
Have we?
We've already had 1,000 downloads, so thank you very much to everyone who
Oh, yeah. Oh,
listens.
thank you. So
Yeah.
should next week be our 1,000 download special? I think it should be. I think it should be.
I don't know. When I said that, I didn't.
I think we need to commit. So what we had planned to do is to celebrate our 1,000 downloads. Just thank you very much for giving us 1,000 downloads. That's great. We had suggested like a special thing, and Matthew suggested House of a 1,000 Corpses. And even though I've never watched the Rob Zombie film, and like even though we did watch Till Death Do Us Part, which I really enjoyed, but like I still don't know how I felt about Grindhouse stuff. That I thought we would do that, and like for every milestone, we would have a movie with like the number in it. I think that would be cute. I think we should do that.
All right, let's see what the random.
Okay, if the genie in the bottle does
If we're not
something-
feeling the dream,
Yeah.
genie. Okay, so all right, there are 75 movies that we have on this list.
Yeah, we'll keep
And-
updating it. We update it every time.
Yeah, I added a bunch this morning.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
And we just put them in a randomizer.
Yep.
And whatever comes up at the top is what we do.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it's been a while since we've like. I don't think have we ever like announced what we're doing next. I think we used. No, we never did.
I mean, yeah,
We used to, but it's been a long time, guys. I hope you're excited because I'm excited because I don't know what we're gonna watch.
the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Ah, fuck.
You know it's going to be a hell of a lot better than.
I know, and like,
I love.
eHarmony's in it.
Yeah.
Crap.
This is like honestly like this is one of the most terrifying movies I've ever seen. It's on Netflix.
So it follows on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yep. Watch it on Netflix. It's good. Even though I have issues with it, it's good. Fine, we'll do that one.
I mean, we could do 2 episodes. We could do House of 1,000 Corpses.
Okay. We should. I think that's a fun thing to do.
Okay. You're right.
With the milestones.
You're right. We will do House of 1,000 Corpses.
Okay.
Um,
We'll have 2 episodes next week.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of them will be filmed and one of them won't, just because I think that would probably be a lot to film both.
Not if we just do it on the same day.
Yeah, that might be a lot.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Mostly.
Something will be filmed.
Yeah.
And both will at the very least be recorded.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're probably, because the audio recordings always come out, but like it's probably going to be a while before you see the video recording of it, which we apologize in advance. It's just how the nature of how we film things. We film a lot of different things than this, and we don't have like a team of editors. You just got our one good
person.
guy. Yeah. So I'm apologize in advance that it's going to be a long while before you see these, but you'll always be hearing them, which is great. So we're always giving you something. So I'm sorry in advance.
All right. Yeah, that's a wrap.
I don't have a quote. I've got nothing.
Well, we have end credits now.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think that
The light came on. Yep. Well, we sort of wrap up now.
Yeah.
The light just went out.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. So thought we should probably make this official.
Yeah.
As close as possible. So Visceral Reactions is brought to you by Go City Studios. You can help us out. Hold on. We're going to go back. Visceral Reactions is brought to you by Go City Studios. Our theme music is Tubular Exorcism, provided by Audio Jungle. And you can help us out by rating and reviewing Visceral Reactions on Apple Podcasts. And follow us to make sure you get the newest episode the second it comes out.
We're 3 seasons in.
Yeah, we're just doing this. We're thankful for all of you listening out there. Thanks for scaring. Join us for the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2003. And see you next time.
See ya.
Ding.
I fucking love this show. It's my favorite thing to do every week.